Today we're going to discuss a very curious alchemical algorithm. But before we get into that, let me give you some background as to why maybe an algorithm could be important for the work we do as mystics. As Rosicrucian and mystics in general, our goal is to get to that sublime state referred to as the rose quark. Now, what exactly is this particular state called the rose quark? For our purposes, it's a state in which all things within our lives are working towards the goal of harmony. Now, that's quite a mouthful. And I bet most of us sometimes struggle with this and oftentimes think that's just not possible because I'm being pulled every which way you can count. I'm being pulled in this way, I'm being pulled in that way. I have responsibilities, family, kids, jobs, so on and so forth. So we get to this point where oftentimes our spiritual work takes a back burner, or even worse, sometimes we're stuck and not sure if we're making progress because we lose sight of the main goal that we're striving for, this goal of the rose quark. Turns out in alchemy, there is a little device, if you will, or a little set of instructions that perfectly imitates an algorithm. And if you use this particular algorithm, it helps you to keep the main thing the main thing. It helps you to keep your eyes on what really matters. And more importantly, it contributes to us eventually getting to the end of our journey as integrated beings who are rose quark. So that's the goal. Tall order, takes a lot of work. And even though the algorithm I'm going to share with you a little later on, it's quite simple and easy to understand, it does take work. So we don't get to escape that part of the journey. So why an algorithm? Well, algorithms are pretty much for our lifetime ubiquitous. You see them all over the place. There are algorithms for, would you believe it, bus schedules and train schedules. You can have an algorithm for the almighty search function in Google. How about if you're a teacher and you wanted to sort papers for your students, maybe in alphabetical order based on their last names? There's an algorithm for that. There's an algorithm for facial recognition. So you see, algorithms are such a part of our life, we almost know them intuitively. So why not an algorithm for mystical studies? So for intents and purposes, we're going to define the algorithm as a sequence of well-defined instructions, if you will. Instructions that are, more importantly, implementable. These are instructions that are usable. They're not confusing. They clarify the process. They allow you to orientate yourself exactly where you are so that you know how to get to where you want to go. Now, these algorithms can either be linear, meaning do this, then that, then that, then that, so on and so forth. They can be conditional, sort of like if you do this, then you get that. Those are the ones that we like a lot. And then they can also be ones that are what we call a loop. Now, in a loop, it feeds itself. You do a particular action, that action gives a result, and the result feeds the original action, making you better at what you're doing. Also, algorithms can act as mnemonic devices. They keep us always focusing on what we need to do, more importantly, where we are in our journey, so that we can make the necessary adjustments. So that's why an algorithm is important for us. Now, what about this algorithm found in alchemy? Well, it's referred to as the Pentagram Algorithm. And I'm probably going to try and patent that name at some point in time. because this little thing really does what it says it does. It integrates our lives, preventing us from losing effort. You know, oftentimes you do these practices and that practices, you put energy here, you put awareness there, but sometimes that's a zero-sum game. You give and you give and you give, and there's nothing in return. This particular algorithm in alchemy tells you exactly where to apply your efforts. And in so doing, it 10x's your results. And at the same time, it prevents loss from your efforts. It also translates our labor into that sublime state that we refer to as peace profound. Well, what do I mean by this? Oftentimes, once again, you give, you do, you act, and you get frustrated because A, you're not seeing the results you want, or you are seeing the results, but they're not as you hope they would be. Maybe it's too slow, maybe it's too fast, maybe it's the opposite if you want, so on and so forth. So you continuously keep laboring, but there are no results to show for it. And you become very agitated, and you don't show up in life as you would like to show up. This, following this pentagram algorithm, your actions and the things that you do would have a overriding purpose. They would make sense, and they would eliminate the frustration in your processes. So why the pentagram algorithm? It's built on 5 points. 5 points because it's based on 5 energies, and 5 energies that can translate within our lives as, in its most physical instance, we can refer to them as the domains of family, finances, friendships, fitness, and probably faith. Now, I've just taken these names out of the alchemical names because I think they're easier to understand and they're easier to apply. Remember, one of our earlier contentions was that an algorithm, the information should be implementable and it should be easy to remember. So I wanted to make it a little bit more mundane, okay? But these energies that affect these 5, these energies that flow through the alchemical mandala or this alchemical algorithm, they fuel and they bring energy to these 5 areas of our lives. And that leads to a holistic result because these particular 5 areas of life, once we work them, once we engage with them, they lead us step by step to the goal. And what is that goal once again? The state of rose square. A fully integrated, holistic life. And it helps us to keep the main thing, because that's the main thing. The main thing is living from a point where you are manifesting your best interpretation of existence. So faith, family, friendship, finances, and fitness. Those are the 5 points. They could be loosely related to air, water, earth, and fire, and spirit or thought, but that's for another day or another time. We can go a lot deeper into this particular algorithm. For now, we just need to scratch the surface and get you something that you can implement like yesterday, so you can start getting the results that you're looking for, okay? So, why fate? The fate point, the energy that comes that we give the name fate to, this is the point in your life where you connect with the divine. This is the point where you apply all the practices that you've been taught in the Rosicrucian order, where you apply all of the results of your meditation to make this connection with divinity stronger and more palpable. This is where you subdue the ego to something that is more timeless and something that transcends space, that transcends our very nature. It's something that we can pattern ourselves after. instead of focusing on the petty inclinations of the ego. At this point of the pentagram is where we find meaning. And this is true meaning, the meaning for why we are here. And in large part, it's not only just to learn lessons, it's not only just to expiate karma and so on and so forth. More importantly, we are here to embody the divine and to more perfectly reflect that divine. And once that reflection is perfected, we are led into that sublime state. Which brings us to the family point. This point of the pentagram, we denote family, because this is where the energy shows up as our foundation for peace profound. This is where we build that cocoon that we can always return to in our times of weakness, in our times of stress. This is where we make our plans. This is the basis of all the larger groupings of people that are going to eventually make up the other points that we're going to look at. You know, the family begins first, that leads to the town leads to the city leads to the state, and so on and so forth, and then the nation. This is the very first nucleus that we work with. And to the extent that you sustain and that you work and you clean this particular point and you apply your alchemical techniques here, is to the extent that you would build that strong foundation. This is the foundation that will provide stability, not just for your mundane work and stuff that you might have to do in the physical realm, but also your spiritual foundation. It's the edifice upon which you're going to build the rest of your journey. The friendship point. The energy that we denote as friendship is extremely important because, in effect, you never realized it. Everything happens in relation to another soul personality. The master within oftentimes speaks to us through other soul personalities. The blessings, the encouragement, the knowledge, the wisdom we receive oftentimes is best owed upon us through other individuals, other soul personalities. So, to the extent that you cultivate this area of your life, growing those connections, growing those relationships, pushing it out, it's to the extent that you create that feedback loop that builds the family, it builds the faith or the spirit. In the friendship point, you learn about the mirrors of the soul. The more of these personalities that you interact as you build out these relationships, they are going to reflect you in more ways than one. They're going to reflect parts of your life that you need to work on. They're going to reflect parts of your life that you need to improve and parts that you need to put more focus on. They'll reflect the good, they'll reflect the bad. They're a mirror for your soul. And this also exposes us to more of reality, because it is through these other soul personalities that there are parts of reality that we've been missing or that we did not have the time to engage with. It becomes possible. So this is another point that we have to nurture and build. Which leads us to the fitness point. The fitness point speaks to the maintenance and the taming of the body. You know, it's quite a clue that in the Rosicrucian work, there's an entire degree devoted to managing the body, nourishing it, bringing it into a state of harmonium, taming the passions and transmuting our emotions. This is what happens at the fitness level. This is what happens as we focus on the various bodies that we engage with, the psychic body, the physical body, and so on and so forth. This allows us to build our awareness of the subtle body. And with that awareness, a more concrete relationship with the unseen realm. None of this happens without us not putting focus and energy on this point. And finally, we're at the what we call the finances point. Now, quite a mundane topic, right? But there's a deep relationship with spirituality. Finances contain a deep relationship with mysticism, because this is the aggregate of your skills, your persistence, your wisdom, and your relationships. Notice to the extent that you cultivate your faith, the faith point, to the extent that you cultivate the family point, and the friendship point, and then the fitness point. This all leads into how are you showing up in the point of finances. Because at the end of the day, it is a quantifiable analog of how well you serve other personalities. Remember how we talked about in the family point is where you first learn service. Remember in all your dealings with the Rosicrucians and the Rosicrucian order, we're constantly stressing the point to be of service. You hear about phrases of someone being a master servant, because truthfully speaking, service is the first point and the last point of our spiritual evolution. And we learn these first. We learn to be a service first in the unit of the family, and then we grow it in the unit of friendships, and so on and so forth. And then we recognize its fruits. We harvest its fruits in the area of finances. Now, none of this is to say that you need to be making, a billion, gazillion dollars. This is not what that's about. This is about getting to that space where you can put in perspective the finances in your life. Because at the end of the day, it reflects the flow of life force in and around you. So to the extent that finances are stagnant or plentiful or flowing is to the extent, and it's a pretty good barometer of what's going on with you in terms of your life force. Okay, something to think about. There you have it. The alchemical algorithm, known as the Pentagram Algorithm. And in this particular slide, you see how it's laid out. It's in the pentagram. At the first point, at the very top, it's faith or spirit or our connection with divinity. You go to the second point, which is down to the right, maybe to the left, depending on how you're looking at it. And that's where we find the point for our finances. And then over to the up to the right-hand side, number 3, you see friendship. And then number 4, family. And down to fitness. And then up once again to spirit. Now, this illustrates the relationship between these 5 points. It also reflects how these energies flow into our awareness and how they interact. And alchemically, it shows which ones are related to which other ones and how you can work in one point in order to affect changes in another point or to become unstuck. And we're going to go through a brief exercise to show you how to implement that. There are additional ways you can be able to implement this particular algorithm, but I will leave that to your own meditations and maybe another presentation in the future day. Okay? So, let me summarize where we're at. We know what algorithms are and we know why they might be pretty cool and important for us to work with. We just found out that within the arcanum of alchemy, there is actually such an algorithm called the Pentagram Algorithm. And what it does, it illustrates the interaction of 5 energies that manifest within our existence. And a lot of the work that we do as mystics is about combining, recombining, purifying, cleansing these particular energies so that they express themselves in a harmonious state. And when these five energies, spirit, earth, water, fire, fear, or faith, family, friendship, finances, fitness, in more mundane parlance, when they are properly aligned, when they're flowing uninterrupted, and when they're combined in the correct way, they result in this sublime state of the rose quartz and into a area of peace profound. So let's do a quick, if you will, a quick exercise that will show you how to implement this algorithm in order to identify a possible point on the pentagram that you can focus your energies in order to become unstuck. Okay? So let's just sit with feet flat on the ground, or try to keep your spine as straight as is comfortable, and just begin taking several neutral breaths. All the while, scanning your body and noticing any areas of resistance and tension, and simply using the breath, relax it. And now you're going to take a deep breath. And as you release it, move your focus and awareness to the center of your head. And there become aware of a small sphere of bright white light. And with each breath, see this little sphere of light becoming more brilliant. And internalize the thought, because of the light, I see my world clearly. And now venture to see your world through this particular point located in the center of the head. Go ahead and take another deep inhale. As you exhale, connect that point to a point in the center of your chest, about 4 or 5 inches away from the breastbone towards the spine. And at that point, see another small sphere of light, this one, however, colored blue. And internalize the thought. Because of life, I feel my world ever more intimately. And finally connect that point to another point about 6 inches below your navel and about 4 inches further in towards the spine. And there become aware of another sphere. This would be your third sphere. This one colored red. And internalize the thought, because of love, all things in my world is healed and sustained. And now venture to feel through that point the flow of energy from you to your world and from the world back to you as we bring this entire operation under the umbrella of light, light, and light. And now take another deep inhale, and as you exhale, become perfectly still. Release any remaining blockages, any remaining resistance or tension in your body and in your mind. And then visualize the pentagram in front of you. Just a few feet, a foot or two out in front of you. Notice the first point at the very top. Faith. From that point, travel along the pentagram down to the second point, which would be down to your left side. And there, awaken finances. Going back up to the right side, it's the third point, friendship. And now, straight over to the left, the fourth point, family. And then down to the lower right, the point of fitness. And slowly go back up to faith, the first point. Now with the algorithm awake, pick one area that you're most stuck in at the moment. It could be faith, finances, family, friendship, or fitness. And now that you've selected that area that you feel most stuck or sabotaged in, we'll find the one that's diagonally across from it. So let's say you selected finances. Then diagonally across from finances, it would be the point of friendship. Or if you selected friendship, it would be finances. If you did fitness, diagonally across, it would be family. Or if you did family, you'll move to the point of fitness. If you did faith, if that's where you are stuck the most, then your choices are either finances, the area of the point of finances, or the point of fitness. Now go ahead and do that now. Simply transfer your attention to that point. Now ask the master within to inspire you of one activity or one action that you can take within that point that you are now focusing on that will help you to become unstuck. And now go ahead, once again, take another deep inhale. And as you exhale, slowly return to mundane consciousness. Knowing full well that if you weren't immediately impressed with an intuitive response, it will come in due time. Thank you, everyone.